Architect Joan De Leon Tabinas, who is an architect, sustainability strategist, and a lecturer, graduate of Master of Science in Integrated Sustainable Design at National University of Singapore. She is the founding director of Center of Resilience Environmental Experts, a firm that promotes ecologically driven design practices while satisfying the human needs in full potential. She is leading the effort of CORE 360 degrees systemic thinking, wherein biodiversity, water, energy, food, public space, and waste woven together to deliver robust, sustainable solutions for the promotion of healthy, inclusive, and resilient environment. For her, sustainability should be holistic, part of the norm rather than a choice. Ladies and gentlemen, the moderator for plenary 3, the chairman of the UAP PDC, please welcome Architect Joan De Leon Tabinas.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon to our participants. So we are now here at the plenary number 3, which we will gonna tackle about water, the strategies on water security in buildings. So first, I want to share this with you. One question: what is the issue? What are the issues that we are now partaking on with regards to the water? Water and weather. It's a delicate balance between the evaporation and precipitation. Am I right? This is the primary cycle through which the climate change is felt. As the climate change, our country in particular felt the drought, the heat wave, the floods, the sea level, and the storm intensify, often with severe consequences. And we all know that. We just experienced it weeks ago. Water scarcity and water stress issues have become clear threat to the global population. At any given season, due to this climate change, the reuse and regeneration of water incorporates in building system should be in our design, in the management during the construction, and the building occupancy as well should be the standard of any building. This is the very reason why we are all here to act as one. We should take ownership in this action. This is not actually all for us, but this is for the betterment of our future. So to bring you in with no further ado, may I introduce to you our leadership speaker to deliver the message, Dr. Floris Bugard. He is a professor, PhD, has over 25 years of experience in research and consultancy in international climate adaptation. His project integrates the worlds of spatial planning and water management with a focus on the implementation of the nature-based solution and sustainability urban drainage system. He's a civil engineer and also a professor of a spatial transformation at the School of Architecture Built Environment. Currently, a consultant, water and subsurface in Deletres in Netherlands, and affiliated in the research of the Global Center of Adaptation. His general research and advanced field includes climate adaptation, stormwater drainage and infiltration, river rehabilitation, complex monitoring, and urban water quality management. Ladies and gentlemen, the CEO of the Innovative Dynamic Monitoring System, nominated as the Engineer of the Year in 2021 and won the National Climate Adaptation Award in 2014. Again, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Floris Bugard.
Salamat, Joan. That's quite an introduction I got there. So thank you so much, and thanks for everyone, of course, to invite us here. So I can share my screen and show you a bit of slides that we prepared. Let me get this out of the way. So I hope you see the full screen, I think. So just to give you some slides as an introduction for this, I might need a bit more of 10 minutes, but it's also an introduction for the panel to reflect on, of course. So what I would like to start with is actually the key messages, so that makes it a bit easier to go through the presentation. Short, because maybe some of you tuned in later. Why are we doing this? Why do we need green infrastructure? And of course, we have challenges, but also the benefits. And of course, we would like to come to action. And for that, I would like to show you, of course, in 10 minutes, very shortly, what kind of building standards you can use or what kind of examples you can visit. So I will leave you with some more information where you can reflect on, but also some discussion points for, of course, this panel. So I'm quite excited to be part of this. Just because Joan already said a lot about my positions, just remember that the different positions are to inflect on a triple helix. So we need, for implementation of green infrastructure, we need education, we need professionals, we need research, of course, and that's the backbone of this presentation. So that's why I have different jobs, so to say. And all these jobs in the Netherlands have one thing in common. If the dikes would break, we live under the sea level, I would be out of my jobs, as you can see here. So water is quite important, relevant for everyone in this case. So as been said by Joan as well, I work at the Global Center of Adaptation, which is mostly a solution broker on climate adaptation. And just to reflect on that, it's a very broad topic. Today we're going to talk about cities and of course infrastructure and water and disasters, but it's much more wider than that. And of course you're well connected as the Philippines all over the world with this, as you can see with some of the pictures of people in the commission in this case. And maybe to reflect, because it was asked to bring some building standards or some inspiration as well, the two offices of the Global Center of Adaptation have a very high BREEAM certificate, for example, the highest, so to say. On the right, you can see a map with more than 2,000 buildings in the Netherlands that have a BREEAM certificate. 77 have an outstanding one. I will come to that later, but of course it's related to water. And on the left, you see a visualization of the office in Rotterdam, what it will be. You can see it's green, but it's also floating. And one of the most resilient aspects of green buildings is if you have drought and you have floodings, if you have floating urbanization, it just goes with the flow, so to say. So that's one thing. But as you know, well, it has to be built. And I'm a civil engineer, and in the picture on the right, you can probably relate to that. First, we have a sketch with great ideas of green infrastructure. Then we meet with the client, and then maybe the ambition is a bit less. And then we have working drawings, and after construction, it might look as a normal building. And I think that is key for today. Let's discuss how we can keep that ambition, how we can keep green infrastructure. But first, why are we doing this? And of course, it's mentioned, and I think you're tuned in for the whole day. It's about heat stress. It's about floodings. It's about water quality. It's about air quality. It's about urbanization, of course, expanding in a rapid movement. And of course, drought. And on the right bottom, you can see that, of course, we get the news from the Netherlands about the last week that you have to witness. And just bear that we are very related to this topic and that we support you from the whole global society, of course. So how can we help? Well, these are smart cities, question mark. What you can see here is a picture, of course, of Manhattan in New York. You see Central Park as one green element in the middle. It's nice. But for heat stress, for example, and drought, we need every drop where it will hit the building needs to be reused, needs to be infiltrating. Because of drought, it has to be used for heat mitigation. So we need a global green infrastructure throughout the city and not centralized in one. And buildings can be a very key element to achieve that. Because if you can see here, green is not getting the space that it needs to have in the city. We seem to seal trees, for example, with asphalt, as you can see here in these pictures. And water is not able to infiltrate in the urban dense area. And these artists, I think, visualized the task which is forehand of us, how to open up the city for green. And on the right, you see some very green buildings, very small, but very inspirational. So, and of course, we've seen already a lot of examples, and these are great examples, some small, some very big, but the greatest example, just to browse through it, are of course multifunctional buildings. Not having the task only for water, but also, as John introduced, more elements like the system diagram and energy on food, also water, of course, and green and public space. And it should have social science, should have education. It should meet a lot of ends. And here again, a lot of examples that I could talk for days about, of course. But I'm just gonna maybe highlight some of them. In the right corner of the bottom is a smart building. It actually holds a lot of water in rainy times to access the drought period. And it's a smart building because it actually listens to the weather forecast. So it holds the water and reuses it when it's needed and releases the water when we can. And maybe the black and white picture, not the best picture, it's in Japan. People canoeing on a roof, which is very inspirational. Of course, it's about art, it's about recreation, etc. So, well, as a bad marriage, let's make a list. Why are we doing this, or why are we not doing this? And of course, there are 101 reasons to do it, like biodiversity, heat stress, and all the challenges that I just explained about. But let's open up, of course, by why not? Of course, there's budget involved. We can do it cost effectively. There are a lot of examples for that. Sometimes there's no space in the urban dense areas to implement them. There could be a lack of legislation. That's why we talk about standards, for example. And it could be something that you just don't like it. It's aesthetic as well. But I'm going to show you some examples, and I really hope, and I think most of you will like it. But of course, this is for the discussion later on. So we're talking about the benefits, and we can calculate what the benefits are. And if we talk about cost, you can see if you put the benefits to cost or benefits, of course, then it will be cheaper actually, because you raise a lot of issues and fight a lot of challenges. So there could be spawn cities, resilient cities, and those are very important words because standards where we're looking for are related to spawn cities or resilient cities. So, and I'm not going to go into this because these are really specific types of sustainable urban drainage system that you can use. And of course, it has been by the previous speaker, if I can say, Sir Dinky, very well put why we need this. So I'm going to skip this for the sake of time, of course. So what is very important as well is doubt is the origin of wisdom. So we have to test them because in every country, it's going to be different why we implement green infrastructure and also how it functions. And one of those research things that we have to do in a triple helix settings is Climate Cafe. And we did some in the Philippines and basically all around the world. So what do we do is basically test green buildings. What is the effect on heat? How does it retain water so we can reuse it, for example? And that's one of the things that I would propose to cooperate on together. And of course, there's a lot of science involved. I'm going to skip this because if you're really involved in this, I put some reference to some publications I did on spawn cities and resilient cities. And what is the main part of that is that we come up with local specific guidelines, standards. And this is a table of a lot of countries as the Netherlands, Germany, United Kingdom, and Belgium, which is very, very in the near neighborhood. But they all have different standards. And that's, of course, the message. Don't copy things from Europe or the United States to the Philippines because there are different reasons. For example, we don't have a lot of malaria. So if you retain water, that could be induced, of course. And there's a lot of information that we can use because some standards are, of course, international. So that's one message that I would like to give. But the most message that I would like to present is to be inspired. And one of my hobbies, which might be a bit weird, I go to different green buildings and I map them. just for knowledge international exchange. So these buildings on the right, you probably are familiar with. That's in Milan. It's the Bosco Verticale, so the vertical forge. It's in most introductions of green infrastructure conferences. It's being used. But how do we find these inspiration? How can we find the information about the standards, etc.? So one of the platforms, international platforms, is climatescan.org. You might have heard of it, but there are even more in the last week, more green buildings being uploaded, probably related to this conference. So there you can find Bosco Verticale in Milano, for example. So it's quite easy to go. You get the exact location, photos and videos, and of course, more research documents as the standards that I've been talking about. And what I think surprising of that is that the Bosco Verticale is being copied, which is a great compliment all around the world. So it's in Singapore, it's in Vietnam, it's in Berlin. So that's quite nice to just visit, and especially in COVID time, just from your desk, go around the world and visit those. And you will find buildings that are food production buildings. For example, here in Sweden, where everybody in this building is actually forced to grow vegetables. And of course, they do that with a lot of attention and motivation, but it's quite nice to see. Or water quality is not being addressed enough. And of course, in the Philippines, being there several times, this is a major issue. Some buildings are being made for water purification, as you can see in this. Wetlands on a roof, for example. So that could be quite inspirational. And of course, in the Netherlands, there are about 1,000 green buildings already, not only with the BREEAM certificate, but all around the world. And these buildings, these have a very high percentage of green walls, are from a municipality. Or the next one is from a water authority, being public organizations giving the good example to others. And that would be very nice to kickstart on as well. So last but not least, I will, of course, these are individual projects, but we need to have a bigger scale. So what can we do, for example, in Manila? Can we learn from cities as Rotterdam, being one of the 100 resilient cities? And just to brush on this, and this is more things that Rick Heikoop is working on, being from Rotterdam, so he can reflect on the discussion with that. So this is a case study. Rotterdam is a specific element that is being bombed in the war, so you would have a lot of space to rebuild. And that's a chance, of course, to rebuild in a very green way. And there's so many different green buildings and characterizations of that. So there's green buildings, blue roofs. So that's about water, that's about green, but also other colors that relate to more social science or field labs as being addressed earlier on. So the city of Rotterdam has a lot of examples with different meanings. So multifunctional reasons to implement a green strategy in the world. I'm just showing this because I think my time is up, but Rick can reflect on that more. Last but not least, of course, there's a lot of information. This is just 10 minutes, of course. I and also other parties of the EU or the Global Center would like to offer a cooperation that maybe the Climate Cafe that I talked earlier on, and we can discuss more during the discussions, that maybe we should find buildings in the Philippines because there are already green buildings, and let's highlight them. Put them on the stage, let's research them and come to standards that are really specific for the Philippines in this case, or other countries, because we saw in the previous speakers as Venezuela or Bali and Indonesia, great examples. So I'm not going to repeat the key messages, but I hope you are inspired. I hope we can put action on the list and we can cooperate together. And of course, this presentation will be presented to you. It has a lot of references that you can look for more info as Climate Scan. So I hope this gives a bit of an introduction, Joan, to the rest of the discussion. And of course, here's a slide with much more info. So salamat.
Thank you very much, Dr. Flory. So for my takeaway with regards to the topic that you've told us is sustainability should be holistic. We really can't feel the effect of being sustainable or being green if you're just on the center, or if your design is only centralized. So it should be holistic. There's a what do you call that one? There should be a dumbbell approach between sustainability and what are the designs and system approach that you need to incorporate in every designs that you are doing. So it's not only about the building standing alone. It should be one community that should be dressed or woven to each other so that it create a good community of green. And also one more thing that I've learned as well is the standard. Okay, we shouldn't copy from other country. We have our own culture. We have our own ways on how are we going to do it. And we need to understand what are the resources that we have in our country. And there's a lot. Okay, so for the reaction about that, I would like to call on first from the DPWH. Okay, so we have here Mr. Alterejos Magalang. So he's the senior public official who has been working with the National Government Agency as an environmental management expert since 1982. He's the chief environmental management specialist presently assigned at the Climate Change Service of the Department of Environmental and Natural Resources, or DENR. At the United Nations, he is the regular member of the Philippine delegation who participates as a negotiator and facilitator in climate change talks as a country party to the UN Framework Convention or climate change. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Alberto Magalang of DENR.
Okay, thank you so much, Architect Juan, for that kind introduction. So I would like to, this afternoon I'm going to share with you the statement from Secretary Cimatu, who won't be able to join us this afternoon because, as we all know, he has been appointed by the President to head the task force on the Build Back Better concerns. So actually, all of us will be also be engaged in this new task force as staff giving technical assistance that would provide also technical expertise according to what we know. I mean, talking about myself, I'll be doing some climate change in related engagements in the task force. So Secretary Cimatu's intervention would be short and sweet. As we all know, in the past, in the previous sessions, there were a lot of messages that were already shared by our speakers, especially in the regenerative built environment system section. So the Secretary would only like to emphasize some of the messages that were mentioned. And but before that, first and foremost, the DENR would like to congratulate the Climate Change Commission and the United Nations Development Program through the Indigenous Support Project for the Philippines. And of course, in collaboration with the Green Architecture Advocacy Philippines, the United Architects of the Philippines, UAP, and the Green and Restorative Actions and Sustainable Solutions for organizing this web conference on the development of the Philippine standards for climate smart buildings with the theme towards a climate built environment for the Philippines. Climate smart built environment for the Philippines. Okay, the problem of water scarcity is already felt in many areas of the country at certain seasons. As we all know, we have now four seasons in the Philippines, based on the report from Pag-asa. So this problem is aggravated by the deterioration of water quality due to the pollution from untreated domestic sewage, industrial wastewater, agricultural and urban runoffs. So climate change has exacerbated these water problems and its adverse effects, which are expected to get worse if robust adaptive measures are not instituted in communities, households, and buildings. So in light of climate change, the DENR recognizes the significance of a comprehensive review and subsequent restructuring of the entire water sector governance as embodied in the National Climate Change Action Plan. As further articulated in the NCCAP, or the National Climate Change Action Plan, the DENR likewise considers the importance of the assessment of the resilience of major water resources and infrastructures. So next is the management of supply and demand, management of water quality, and the promotion of water conservation. Further, the DENR supports the implementation of green building principles in community development through the development of green building rating scheme, specifications and criteria, and incentive system for green buildings, as also espoused in the National Climate Change Action Plan. Okay, specifically for the DENR, some additional thoughts on climate smart building, in addition to what have already been mentioned, especially by architect Dinky, and also as mentioned by Dr. Bugard. The DENR considers a climate smart building that should incorporate water conservation technologies and strategies. So there are here are some of those water saving strategies that we can consider, such as utilizing water efficient plumbing fixtures, like for example the application of ultra low flow toilets and urinals, waterless urinals, low flow and sensored sinks, and low flow shower heads. Also, and as an example, there should be a good design for dual plumbing to use recycled water, and also the collection of rainwater using the rainwater and gray water storage, and the design of low demand landscaping using plants native to the local ecosystem. So these are just a few of the examples which would be serve as an additional strategies that have been mentioned previously in the other presentations. Okay, talking about the department's program on clean water. There are priority activities that would include the monitoring of the compliance by industries and firms, including buildings, classification of water bodies, and the designation of water quality management areas, or the so-called WACMAS. So this has already been started within the areas of Manila Bay. It's still based on the full order from the president to work on the rehabilitation of Manila Bay. And then talking about the water quality or the clean water program, basically we all priority activities on this are focused on the improvement of water quality of priority rivers as well outside Metro Manila, and other critical water bodies, including lakes and bays, through continuous massive cleanup, monitoring of industries, and rehabilitation of esteros, rivers through partnerships. And this would include application of ecosystem or nature-based solutions like constructed wetlands, as already mentioned a while ago. So the classification of water bodies will still be done by the department through the Environmental Management Bureau, because this would give us or help water managers and planners develop proper water quality management programs and provide the standards to protect aquatic life and the specific use of water bodies. So in closing, the DENR would likewise support the development of a national standard on climate smart buildings that would not only reduce environmental impacts, reduce or avoid greenhouse gas emissions, conserve resources, and also The standards will ensure that our buildings would be more resilient to climate-related risks. So with that, thank you very much. And together with the green building sector, let us build back better. Thanks so much, and magandang hapon po.
Thank you very much, Mr. Magalang. And we really believe that the DENR is really doing all your best to support whatever we have here on board. And then we are so grateful to know that you are reviewing and taking action on the plans of our natural water resources. And to add on to that as well, we are so happy to hear that we are now incorporating some systems in the water management system, such as the gray water recycling, the rainwater harvesting, what else? The natural stormwater treatment, and also the we can also use the non-potable water self-sufficiency as well. You may want to think about that, and some connectivity and accessibility over the water. So thank you so much for that, sir. And then now, with no further ado, may I call on our first reactor on the talk of Dr. Floris Bugard, and also the response of Mr. Alberto Magalang. So right now we have a reactor from Netherlands as well. He is the senior lecturer of water management of Rotterdam University of Applied Sciences. He is also have 15 years of record and achievement and demonstrated success in initiating, managing, and leading international collaborations and partnership in water sector in the triple helix setup. He was involved in the development of the courses of water management and real estate management, and co-initiated the wetskills.com in 2010. He is currently working in the two of his passion, Sunny Embarkment Philippines, which integrates the Helophyte filter system in the river embankment to provide sanitation facilities along river banks in Davao City. And CityScan method, which aims to gather essential data that enable to access the level of resilience of the specific street, neighborhood, or city with low cost and low tech tools and